Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ready for Rome. This is our Rome orientation webinar. My name is Shelley Ruel. I am the community manager at Italia Pass, and I'm joined today by my colleague Sofia Bargaglia, and she is the Italia Pass Italy Experience Specialist. And we're happy to be here today with you to share some information about visiting Rome so that you can get around like a local and feel more comfortable once you are here and have a really great trip. I've lived here for over 20 years now, so I have a lot of local knowledge and experience. And Sophia is Italian, so she also has a lot of native Italian experience as well. So before we get started, I wanted to just go very briefly into what is Italia Pass, because I think many of you have come to this webinar because you purchased a ticket with Italia Rail. So it's a family of brands, Italia Rail, Tours, Drive, and Hotels. And we've been working with millions of tourists to Italy since 1987. And our CEO decided that he wanted to help his customers have a really great trip to Italy and created Italia Pass. And Italia Pass is a free community, which is the community that I manage. And it's also a membership benefits program. The base price is $149 for the membership. And actually here it says 500 plus in value, but we've since added even more benefits. So actually we're up to $650 in value for $149. And so this is a little bit about Italia Pass, and we'll be talking a little bit more about the membership as we go through the slides, because that way, in case there's a benefit or something in the membership that interests you that would be good for your trip, then you have more information about that. So here's what we're going to cover in our webinar today. It's going to be about a half an hour of information and then 15 minutes of live Q&A in the chat functionality. You can use the Q&A function on the chat. So we won't be able to answer if you raise your hand or things like that, but when we get to the end, we'll answer questions live through the chat function. So first, we're going to talk about arriving at FCO. That's Fiumicino Airport, which is also known as Leonardo da Vinci Airport, and getting into the city because the airport is just outside the city, about a half an hour. We'll also talk about the Italia Pass Lounge at Rome's Termini train station. I'll tell you how to get around on public transport and some information about restaurants and how to avoid tourist traps. And then we'll also give you some information about how you can get complimentary access into some of the largest monuments and art galleries, and also how to get $100 off of an Italia Tours experience. I'll round that out with a couple more of my local tips, and then we'll go into the live Q&A. So now I'll turn it over to Sophia, who's going to tell you all about how to get into the city once you arrive at the airport, since that's where most people make their first arrival into Rome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Shelley, and thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Let's get started. You've arrived at FCO. So now you're here, and you'll have a few options to get to the center of Rome. As you see, they're all indicated in the terminal, so you'll have no trouble getting around. There's three main options. The first one would be trains, of course. Usually, most people, when they get to FCO, they try to reach, if they're trying to get into the city, they'll try to reach Roma Termini. This is the main station in Rome. And in order to go there, there's a type of train that you might be interested in. It's called the Leonardo Express. It's a direct train that goes directly to Termini. It's an express train. It's about $16 on Italia Rail, and it's the most direct way of getting in the center of the city with the train. But you can also, there's also another type of train that you can get. There's, I believe, two regional trains that go to smaller stations in Rome. They're regular regional trains, and they go to Trastevere and Ostiense. Those are, I believe, around $10 on Italia Rail. They're all considered regionals. The only one that has a special status would be the Leonardo Express. And they're all excellent ways of getting into the heart of Rome. So we generally get a lot of questions regarding whether you should book in advance before you arrive. And I do recommend booking these tickets in advance, especially if you're traveling during high season. That would be now, actually. Usually it starts around May and it goes all the way to early October-ish. And during this season, the queues can get very long. The airport is very busy. The servers can get overwhelmed. So if you want to make sure that you arrive at the airport and just, you're already ready to go without having to deal with all of that, I would definitely make sure to book those in advance through italiarail.com. The only thing we should always keep in mind that Leonardo Express tickets, especially, are time specific. So the timing of the tickets themselves can get a bit tricky. I usually recommend booking a time that's at least an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours after your scheduled landing time. And definitely if you're trying to get to Termini to then go to another place like Naples or Florence, definitely do not book anything out of that station, Termini, within 3 hours of your arrival. This is, to accommodate for delays, luggage issues, any other unforeseen events that can happen while traveling. Changing tickets can be, a bit time consuming and you're tired from the flight. It's just not a fun time. So always make sure to leave that amount of time to accommodate for any of those issues. It also takes a while to navigate the stations themselves, especially Termini, it's a big place. So again, it's just overall a good idea to leave a bit of a window. So that's it for trains. As you see here, there's also taxis that you can get. You can find them right outside the terminal, and they have a fixed rate of 55 euros to get into the city. Some other options, of course, include shuttle buses or private transfers. You can book those with us. If they take you straight to your accommodation in Rome, or if you're trying to get to another city, you can go to Termini. You'll have a private driver. We usually have sedans or minivans that you can book. And they're available on italiatours.com. So if that's something you're interested in, I definitely recommend it. Moving on, now we have, should I rent a car? So this is a question that comes up all the time, and there's no clear-cut answer, I would say. It's something that depends a lot on what type of trip you're having, where you will be going to. And I can give you some examples. I can give you some general tips. The golden rule for me is if you know that you're going to be exploring some of the more remote areas of Italy, a typical example could be Tuscany or the Amalfi Coast. Renting a car can be a great option in this specific case, just because there are not a lot of options for public transport in more remote areas. In cities, it's completely fine. But getting around and, maybe you want to see something very specific in a small village in Tuscany, having a car definitely helps. However, if you know that you're only going to be visiting the major cities, let's say you're going to Florence, Venice, Rome, and Milan, and you're just interested in, the main highlights and the main sites, then in that case, I would not recommend renting a car, just because the best way to travel from one major city to another is usually by train. And once you're in the city, there are usually very strict car traffic rules, and the streets can get very narrow. You need permits to park in certain places. So it can get very tricky. It's a lot of work to figure out how everything works. So again, if you're in a city, I wouldn't recommend it, but ultimately it's up to you. If you do decide to rent a car, regardless, you can do so on our platform, Italia Drive. And as members, our members benefit from a $10 discount on your Italia Drive orders. So once you go on the website, you can apply your coupons or reach out to us directly to have it applied as a rebate. Another perk of being a member is the access to our Italia Pass lounge. Our lounge is located in the Roma Termini station. That's the station I was talking about, the main one in Rome. And this is a great place to, hang out. If you have some free time before boarding a train, or let's say you're waiting for your hotel check-in time, you're welcome to come and visit us, come and relax in the lounge, where you will find free Wi-Fi, espresso, refreshments, We also have a free luggage storage facility where you can store your carry-on baggages or even larger suitcases is completely fine. And we also have some lovely, lovely hosts that can answer any questions that you might have about Rome or about your train tickets. Anything related to your trip, they'll be happy to help. All we ask is that you book your complimentary visit beforehand, so that we can know that you will be there and that we can so that we can be ready to welcome you. And now I'll hand it over back to Shelley for some information on public transport within the city.
Thank you. So public transport here in Rome, the company is called ATAC, and we have three different types of public transport that you can use. The main way is buses. We also have a subway and underground line. It's called the Metro. That's short for Metropolitana. So if you hear Metro, they're talking about the subway. It's a very easy system to navigate compared to other large European cities or New York, say, for example. It only has two lines, the A line and the B line, and they only cross at one point. So if you need to change from A to B, you can only change at one point. And that point is this transport hub that we've already mentioned several times, which is Rome Termini train station. So that makes it very, very easy to navigate. There are also a couple of trams, like above ground streetcars, but you probably won't use those because they don't really service the main tourist areas. Now, tickets are pretty economical compared to other large European cities. The tickets cost €1.50 each, and they are time limited. So you don't need to worry about different zones of the city or anything like that. Your ticket is good for 100 minutes of unlimited travel on any type of public transport within the ATAC system. There is one exception to that, and that is that ticket, regardless of the amount of time that you have on it, it's only good for one ride on the subway. So what that means is once you enter the subway on that ticket, you take the subway, you can even change lines, do your trip, but once you leave the station, that ticket is no longer good for another subway ride, even if it still has more time on it. So the time starts from when you do your first trip. So whenever you board your first bus or you enter the metro, that's when that 100 minutes starts. So let's say you've taken a metro ride, you can't take another metro ride. However, you can still use the public transport system for the duration of that 100 minutes. And you'll know the amount of time that you have because of either when you made your payment with the contactless payment system, which I'm going to talk about in just a second, or if you have a paper ticket and you stick it into the machine to validate it, it will stamp your ticket with the time that you validated it. So that's how you know when the time starts for that 100 minutes. Now, like I said, there is a contactless payment system, which is very convenient for purchasing tickets. The tap and go system is available in all the metro stations at the turnstiles. So all you have to do is pull out your card, your credit card, your debit card with the contactless chip, or your smartphone contactless payment, and you just place it on the reader at the turnstile, and the turnstile will open. You can go through, and your payment method counts as your ticket. The only thing there is that you have to have a separate payment method for each rider. You can't use the same card for more than one person because that card, whatever that payment system is, that counts as your ticket. So let's say, for example, that you get on a bus and you use the tap and go system as your ticket payment. If an inspector gets on the bus to check to see if you have a ticket, and the reason an inspector might check is because one thing to know is that on the city buses, you don't come into contact with the driver in the sense of the driver's not going to check to see if you have a ticket. Some European cities, you have to board where the driver is and you have to actually pay the driver, or the driver has to check your ticket. None of that in Rome. You just simply get on the bus. It's kind of like an honor system in a way, because you just never know if an inspector will come on the bus or not. So if the inspector comes on the bus, you're going to show your payment card or your smartphone app, and then they'll have that in their system that you've paid for your ticket. So you just have to have a separate payment card for each rider. So for example, if you're traveling in the metro and you have to go through the turnstiles, like for example, if you have your children, you can have, tap your card and have your child go through first, and then you tap a different card and you go through next. There are also paper tickets, even though the tap and go system is pretty much installed on most of the systems, most of the buses now, especially with the Jubilee year. They did a lot of upgrades to the public transport technology in terms of the tickets. If you do want to buy paper tickets just to be on the safe side in case you're on a bus that maybe doesn't have the tap and go system, tickets, if you want to practice your Italian, they're called biglietto. That's singular. One would be un biglietto. They're available at machines in the subway stations. And they're also available at tabaccheria, which are tobacconist shops. Those are easy to find because out in front of, above the door, they have a sign with a T, and also at newsstands, which are throughout the city. So those are the ways that you can get the paper tickets. If you want to carry those around with you, I would recommend buying 2 per person. So you have 1 ticket for going and 1 ticket for coming back. And they can just be convenient to keep in your wallet in case you need them. Last but not least, I wanted to let you know about a particular bus route for a very helpful reason, and also for a reason that I just wanted to give you a little bit of a caution about. So bus 64 is a really helpful bus route because it goes from this transport hub we talked about, Termini, all the way across the historic center, across the city to the Vatican. And so it's a very convenient bus for visitors because it will take you through most of the main points of the city that are tourist attraction points. So that's a convenient bus route. The one thing I would caution you about is because it's so popular with visitors and tourists, it's also a bit of a target for pickpockets. Now, when I say pickpockets, I do not want to worry you. A lot of things go around on social media about pickpocketing being impossible to avoid in Rome. I am here to tell you, I've lived here for 23 years. I have never once, knock on wood, I have never once been pickpocketed, but I really don't think it's that difficult to avoid. You just have to be super aware of your surroundings. Just don't look like a distracted tourist. I know it's going to be hard because, like, look at this photo. You're going to be on a bus driving by the Colosseum. It's going to be really hard to not like want to be distracted, but it's simple to keep your, like, if you have a purse, put it across your body and just place your hand on the purse. Or men with your wallets, don't put it in your back pocket. Maybe have it in your front pocket with your hand on it, or in a breast pocket if you have a jacket. And you don't have to go around like this, but I'm talking about in crowded areas such as bus 64, because the problem with pickpocketing is when you're being jostled around, that's prime pickpocket time because you can't really feel if somebody's trying to get your wallet. But again, if you look like you know where you're going, you're not distracted, and your hands are on your belongings, it's going to make you're just not an easy target. There's plenty of other easy targets, and they're not going to waste their time with you because you look like somebody that would be harder to pickpocket. So please don't worry. Rome is a very safe city. The amount of pickpocketing here is on level with any other large European city. So you can feel confident that as long as you're aware of your surroundings in crowded areas. So we're talking about bus 64, other crowded buses, Trevi Fountain, you know, the big tourist sites where you may be in kind of crowded areas. So you will be just fine if you follow that tip. Now let's go on to something really fun, which I hope you're going to enjoy all the delicious Italian food, and specifically Roman food, because each city and region has its own kind of culinary specialties that you're going to be eating while you're here in the city. So a couple things I want to point out about restaurants. We eat a little bit later than what you might be used to. We eat lunch starting around 1:30 p.m. and dinner anywhere from 8 to 8:30. The reason I tell you this is because if you're going to book a restaurant or even just go into a local, like a restaurant where the locals eat, the kitchen may not be open before that. 7:30-ish sometimes, but anything earlier than that, you might have a hard time finding, they just might not be able to seat you quite yet. Now doesn't mean you're not going to be able to eat before that. There's plenty of restaurants that do cater to tourists that are open all day long. However, if you want to eat at a very local place, those are the general dining times. The reason I have a bullet point that says check, which, by the way, if you want to practice your Italian, check is il conto. The reason I put that there is because the tradition with the check here in a restaurant is a little bit different than you might be used to. Sometimes, especially like where I'm from in the United States, when you go out to eat, a lot of times the server will, when they bring your food, they'll put your check down and they'll say, I'll take that for you when you're ready. It's the exact opposite here. They will not generally bring your check until you ask for it. Now, the reason for that is cultural. Going out to dinner here, going out to lunch here with your family and friends, it's a cultural moment like where you can, be with your loved ones, and they want you to feel like you can relax and you're not being rushed. You have that table, generally speaking, for as long as you want, unless they tell you in a very, very popular restaurant. It rarely happens that they might say, look, you have this table until an hour and a half, and then we turn the tables. But I've only had that happen to me once, and that was in Bologna at a really pretty popular restaurant. So you're going to want to ask for the check when you're ready. I just don't want you to think that, like, what is wrong with this wait staff? They're not bringing the check. They're trying to be courteous and respectful of your time with your loved ones at the table. So that's about the check. Last but not least, tipping. Tipping is always something we get a lot of questions about. The wait staff here in Italy is paid on a regular salary, so they do not work for tips, which generally means that people don't leave tips here. Most of my local friends don't leave tips when they eat out. It's just not done. Now, if you want to be courteous, you feel like you had a really nice service, you want to leave a courtesy tip, we might leave €1 per person at the table just as a courtesy. Sometimes service charges are added into the bill if it's a very large group, but you will see that on the check, and it should be listed on the menu by law. It should say that also on the menu. So don't feel uncomfortable by not leaving a tip, and don't let them try to, maybe at a more touristy restaurant, try to make you believe that you need to leave a tip. That's not local custom. Same goes for taxis. I get that question too. Even though we're talking about restaurants, people do ask about taxis. You do not need to tip in a taxi. It is courteous to round up if you're paying in cash. So say if it was $5.65, round up to $6 so the driver doesn't need to make change. However, you can pay for taxis with cards and contactless payment systems. So cash isn't usually an issue anymore. Now let's talk about, we'll move over to gelato. You're going to love the gelato. I want to point out two things that kind of are tip-offs of gelato that's more touristy or not quite as authentic. If you see tubs like in this photo that are just like overflowing, that is a tip-off that it's kind of more of a commercial style gelato and not such an artisanal type of gelato, because what they do is they whip in a lot of air to make it look really showy and impressive, but it's more of a commercial style. Same thing goes with if you see these really bright neon colors, that's artificial coloring, which they would not use in a really good authentic gelato. Last but not least, restaurants. So to avoid the more touristy trap type of restaurants, if you see pictures on the menu, that's a sure tip off that it's for tourists, because obviously, as you can imagine, Romans don't need pictures to know what they're going to eat on their menu. Also, something I call promoters. You're going to see downtown in the really popular areas, there will be people standing outside of certain restaurants trying to kind of usher customers inside. Obviously, a local restaurant would never do that. They don't need to convince locals to come into their restaurant. Now, that being said, are you going to, if you see these restaurants and you eat there, are you going to get a terrible meal? No, it will probably be passable. But the point is, if you're in Rome, you might as well eat at a really local restaurant. And at the end of the presentation, I'm going to send you a list of resources. And within that list that you'll get in your email, there are also going to be some restaurant suggestions in there for people have asked me in the past, like, what are your favorite places, local places? And I've listed those. Now I'm going to pass it back over to Sophia to talk to you a little bit about how to get in the sites and to save some money on those as well.
Thank you, Shelley. So yeah, of course, a big part of visiting Italy, and especially if you're an ItaliaPass member, will be visiting the main sites in Rome. So let's start off with the Colosseum. This is one of our highlights. ItaliaPass members get one free tour of the Colosseum. This used to be entrance only, but recently it got upgraded to a full tour. And it features exclusive access to the arena floor through the iconic Gladiator's Gate. So, of course, if you're in Rome, definitely make sure to stop by, and if you can, get into the Colosseum, because it's the Colosseum. I think everyone needs to see it at least once. And again, as for our members, it's free. For our members, we also have complimentary access to the Pantheon in Rome. The Pantheon is probably one of the coolest old ancient buildings in the city, at least personally. I always recommend it. It's not always a first visit type of site for some reason, but my personal recommendation is definitely go. And again, it is part of the membership, so definitely take advantage of it if you can. As for the rest of Rome, of course, we offer other tours, guided tours of the Vatican, as well as the rest of the city. We have some walking tours specifically of Rome, where you can see Piazza Navona, the Spanish Steps, the Trevi Fountain, of course, and hear all about their history. So if you're interested in that, and especially if you want to combine it with the Colosseum or with the Vatican tour, I would recommend looking into something that we have on italiatours.com, which is called the Rome Tour Pass. This is a 48-hour, it's a pass that lasts 2 days. So if you have at least 2 days in Rome, it includes everything that I've just mentioned, and it's usually the best deal to get if you have that amount of time. That's it for oh, of course, something that we also have that's more recent of a benefit. It's not necessarily Rome related, but it's really cool, so I'm gonna mention it anyway. If you want to do a day trip to Florence, something that we recently added is free access, again, for our members, to the Uffizi and Accademia galleries. So that's it for the Italia Pass membership benefits for the free entrances, but we also have, of course, the discount benefits that you can access as a member. So if you want to do any of the other tours that we have available on our website, and there's a lot for many of the different areas of Italy, our members do get $100 off of their first tour booking and 10% off of any subsequent tour order. You can book everything on italiatours.com. And if you have any questions, if you're not sure which tour might feature you best, which one you might be more interested in, of course, feel free to reach out to us. We're always happy to help. If you need any help booking them or if you have any questions. The only thing that I would recommend is book them as far in advance as you can, especially in Rome, especially if you're trying to get to the Colosseum or see the Vatican. They do sell out incredibly fast, so we always recommend booking several weeks, if not usually a few months in advance, if you can. And now for Italian Magazine Premium, this is our one of our partner brands. It is a premium benefit for our Italia Pass members as well. And the one special thing about this year's edition is that it's a Vatican City Jubilee year edition. Of course, the Jubilee is happening this year. And there's this one specific edition that we're doing and that you can have access to, which is essentially a guide to, get some insider tips on visiting iconic landmarks within the Vatican during this very eventful and peculiar year. The issue itself is crafted for first-time visitors, but even if you've already been to the Vatican or to Rome in general, it is a good refresher. And again, it's part of the membership, so I do recommend signing up for it. And it's super easy to get. In order to get access, all you have to do is fill out a brief survey on the community, where you will find all the information on how to get the magazine. And last but not least, we have the Borgia Dungeon. This is a very unique experience that you can access through our membership, because the dungeon is one of the only places in the city of Rome where you can still access the original ancient Roman street level. We host many events here. Our usual one is the exclusive wine tasting and aperitivo, where you get to hear about the fascinating history, of course, of the Borgia family, which gives the name to the place itself. And you'll get a look into the Roman Renaissance, which is possibly one of the most eventful times in Italian history as a whole. And of course, it is paired with an aperitivo and wine tasting, which is an excellent and very local way of experiencing the Roman and Italian food culture. all led by one of our expert sommeliers, of course. Again, this is only accessible to our members. It's one of the most exclusive parts of the membership and program that we have, and it is a one-of-a-kind experience. So if you have a free evening, I would absolutely recommend booking a visit. And finally, back to Shelley for some local tips.
Thank you. So wrapping up the informational part of our presentation before the Q&A, I just wanted to leave you with a couple of local tips. So this photo you see here of this water fountain, these are unique to Rome. They're called Nazzoni. And the reason they're called Nazzoni is because Nazzone means big nose, and it's in reference to the spigot shape on these fountains. So these fountains run continuously. You don't have to turn them on. You'll be seeing them throughout the city with water just coming out of them. The water comes from deep underground spring. It comes out really cold. So it is the best way to keep hydrated when you're going around the city. You don't need to buy plastic water bottles. In fact, Italia Pass members get a special surprise if they stop into the lounge. We have reusable water bottles, branded ones that we give away to free to our members. So you'll be all set with your reusable bottle to refill. And in my resource list that I'm going to provide you via email after the presentation, you will also have access to a smartphone app that the local water utility published. And it has on the app, there's a map that shows where all these different fountains are located, so you can easily find where your next water refill will be coming from. And believe me, that's going to be very handy because it's really hot in Rome right now. And it's going to stay hot for a while now. So you're going to be grateful for those. Last but not least, you see this photo down here is an aperitivo. You see that drink on the right. You might know that drink. It's pretty iconic. It's called the Aperol Spritz. An aperitivo is a pre-dinner snack / drink social moment. And maybe because waiting until 8 or 8:30 to eat, people need a little something to eat before. Aperitivo time is around 6 p.m., 6:30, so it's pre-dinner. Now, the aperitivo, it can be like Aperol Spritz and some of the more traditional aperitivo drinks, they have a little bit of alcohol in them. However, there's plenty of non-alcoholic aperitivo drinks, or you could just get a Coke or a lemon soda, something like that. And there's a couple different ways you can do this. So the photo I have here is at a place called Meccanismo that I like in Trastevere. The reason I like it is because you can see they make a really abundant aperitivo. I think currently it costs 13 euros per person. It's a great deal, nice in Piazza Trilussa if you get an outdoor table, really nice place. Casual, fun, and believe me, with those kind of snacks there, you could actually make a dinner out of it, probably. So that's one way to do it, where it's actually like an aperitivo at a restaurant. Or another way to do it is just stop into any coffee bar, because at that time of the evening, you can get an aperitivo just by telling them at the register. You could get a glass of prosecco. Like in my neighborhood, a glass of prosecco at aperitivo time is like $4.50, and they'll give you like potato chips or peanuts. It won't be a spread like you see here, but this is a nice tradition, little cultural moment that you can try when you come here to Italy. So that wraps up the informational part of our webinar. Like I said, I'm going to send you out an email with links to the resources, things that we've talked about in this webinar, a recap of the Q&A that we're about to hold right now, and you'll also get a link to the recording of this webinar. So if you joined late, or if we talk too fast, you want to go back and look at something, you'll have a link to this it will be on YouTube. And I may not get it out to you right away because it's going to be 7 o'clock here in Rome. So give me at least 24 hours. Don't worry if it doesn't come right away. You will have it latest within 24 hours. You'll have this email in your inbox. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and we're going to go right into the Q&A. So down in the bottom where the icons are, if you click Q&A, you're going to see that there's a chat that comes up, and you can just type your questions in. We're going to go through them one by one. We're going to spend about 15 minutes looking at these questions. If we don't get to your question, don't worry, because I go offline. All these questions get saved for me, and then I go offline and I will answer whatever we don't manage to answer live. I will answer offline, and that will be in our recap. So be sure you're type in anything you want to ask, and we will get to all of them either right now or later. All right, first with Sandra, she's asking, is there a free transport to get from FCO, which is the airport, to Rome Termini? Nope, there is no free transport. That was an easy one. Maybe, actually, you know what? I don't know if do hotels offer, are there certain hotels that might offer a free shuttle?
I was going to say, I think there are some, especially there are some hotels that are very close to the airport itself that
Yeah.
can offer a shuttle, but it's so heavily
It might be
dependent
the
on.
airport hotels, like maybe I think there's like a Hilton at the airport maybe, but no, I wouldn't
Yes.
count on it. The methods that we talked about in our slide are the main ones that you're going to want to look at.
And the second one I can take, let's see, where's my confirmation of being an Italia Pass member? I think I bought Railaid. Is this the same? So Railaid and the Italia Pass membership are actually separate things. They are, the Italia Pass membership includes Railaid as a benefit, but they are two separate programs. So if you signed up for Railaid only, you may not have received the welcome email for the membership. But you can sign up through italiapass.com if that's something that you want to do. And if you already have signed up as a member directly, yes, you do have Railaid, and there should be a welcome email that goes out. There's actually several emails that go out from our system, so just look for anything Italia Pass wants to sign up, and that will have all the information that you need as a member. I can take the next one too if you
Okay,
want.
yeah, go for it. Sure.
So free access, is it all or one? For example, do I get the Colosseum and Uffizi? Yes, it's all included. If you decide to go to Rome and Florence during the same trip and you want to take advantage of all these benefits, you can.
The next one is Gianluca. He's asking, what is special about the Jubilee? Are there certain sites that can only be viewed during the Jubilee? So we mentioned the Jubilee for a couple reasons. I suppose what's special is it's every 25 years. It's the Roman Catholic Church. They open the holy doors, which are never open at St. Peter's Basilica and the other major basilicas here in Rome. So this is mainly important for people who come here as religious pilgrims. So that's for Roman Catholics. However, for general tourists, we mention it because there's just more tourists around. There's more visitors in a Jubilee year. And so in terms of certain sites that can only be viewed, I think it's mainly just the holy doors that are open. All the other, I mean, there's no special Jubilee quote unquote sites. It's just the religious sites have special features and special, they offer different things for Roman Catholics who are religious pilgrims. But it's good to be aware of if you're visiting now that it's a Jubilee year, because you just might see a few extra crowds if you're going to visit the Vatican. Might be a little bit longer lines, this type of thing. I'll take this one too, because this was referring to the slides about public transportation. Kathleen says, you mentioned a smartphone app for bus transportation. Which app are you referring to? So when I was talking about smartphones in public transport, actually what I was talking about was you can use your smartphone if it has a contactless payment method like Apple Pay. You can use the Apple Pay to pay for your subway tickets or on Tap and Go on the buses. However, if you want to know about a smartphone app that you can use to navigate the public transport system, I will put that in the Q&A recap. There is an ATTAC. Well, ATTAC has had an app called Muoversi a Roma. I need to look into it because I don't know if it's changed in the meantime, but I will put a link to that app as well. It's not quite as evolved as other European cities, but you know what I find very useful actually for public transport is an app called Move It. I will link to that. And also, frankly speaking, Google Maps has been an option that I use the most. I just use Google Maps. I click on the bus icon and it will chart out your entire public transport journey. And 9 times out of 10, it also shows you when it's arriving. Rome public transport is notorious for being unpredictable. And so you will really feel local when you ride on public transport.
I can take the next one. We will have 3 people on a trip. What should we do for Italia Pass? 1 main and 2 companions? How can we assure that we get the same time for attractions? So I think one main membership and two companions should work if you're planning on visiting everything that we've mentioned throughout the webinar. However, if you plan on traveling a lot between cities, or if you plan on taking other tours as well outside of the Colosseum, Uffizi, and everything that we mentioned as a free benefit, I would actually recommend 3 full memberships, just because you can unlock all the other discounts as well. Whereas the companions have a limited range of benefits. So I guess it would depend on how long your trip is and what you're planning on doing while you're there. Both options work. It's just a matter of convenience of one versus the other. Um, I can take this one too, I guess. I know you said no tipping for taxi, but what about private drivers? I would say it's the same idea. Italy lacks a culture of tipping in general. It's not really something that we do. I guess, sometimes if somebody wants to leave a tip, it's always appreciated. You're not probably going to find anybody who will be offended or, refuses it. But I wouldn't say it's mandatory in any scenario, really.
Yeah, I would agree. In the sorry, that was my dog. I think it's just it's not mandatory, but for private drivers, it might be a little bit more expected than a taxi. But even in that case, maybe I don't know, a few euros, never anything like like a 20%. We don't really see that kind of tipping around here.
Absolutely. Uh, the other one is about the Rome Tour Pass. What does that get you in addition to the Italia Pass? So the Rome Tour Pass is actually more of a tour package than a pass or a membership. You can have both in the sense that I guess the main benefit of having both would be that you would get the Rome Tour Pass, which includes the Colosseum tours, Vatican tours, either a walking tour or a food tour, depending on the season. And if you're an Italia Pass member, if it's your first order, you would get $100 off, which I believe is just about half of what the package is usually worth. So there are two separate things. I just recommend it. It's the best way to see Rome if you're there only for a couple of days, really.
So this
Next.
this
Mhm.
next question looks like the Anita, how can I upload my Italia Rail onto the app? So I'm assuming that you're looking for an Italia Rail app to load your tickets. And we don't actually have an app. The way that you're going to access your Italia Rail tickets is by your confirmation email when you purchase. Is there anything you want to add to that, Sophia, based on like what customers have asked in the past?
Not really. If the We are working on figuring a login system out, but it's not available right now. So if you need a recap of everything that you've booked or information about your membership, we always encourage members to reach out directly to us, and we'll just provide anything that you might need. I see the next one is, does it require a place of residence in Italy for signing up? The Italia Pass membership, no. You can sign up from anywhere in the world. Um, and it's completely fine. What isn't included in the companion pass? I believe I would need to double check the full list, but it should be, the main difference is the rail discounts and the tour discounts. So the full membership gets $50 off of the first rail order and $100 off of the first tour order. These are not included as companion memberships, which is also why you can buy companion membership by itself, but it's usually heavily recommended that you buy it as a companion membership together with a full one, just to take full advantage of the benefits.
Okay, this next one is Gianluca asking, is the 55 fee for taxis at Fiumicino in US dollars or euros? It's euros. I assume taxis only accommodate 4 people plus luggage. You are exactly right. I actually researched that during our last webinar because someone had a group of 5 and they were wondering if a taxi could accommodate 5. The fixed rate is officially for 4 passengers and their luggage is included, no supplements. 4 passengers and their luggage are all included in that 55 euro rate. And the way you'll get that is just by standing in the queue. There's a taxi stand out in front of the airport. You want to make sure you go to that line not taking anybody who's offering you a taxi as you exit the airport. Those are private drivers and they're not official taxis.
Perfect. I can take this last one. Can I purchase tickets for my group of four, even if each person has the Italia Pass? Absolutely. If you want to just place one single order for all four passengers, you can add the memberships directly into the cart if you don't have them already, and we'll know that they're all signed up under that same email address. Or if they're under separate email addresses, it does become slightly more complicated, but it's still perfectly doable. If you're trying to redeem the $50 off, for example, just reach out to us, tell us your email address and your reference number for the orders that you placed, and we'll take care of the rebates for you. It's usually an automatic process. It's done within 24 to 48 hours after the order, but of course, if you want to reach out at any point. I also realized I forgot to answer part of a question before. It's the same for tours. You'll see there's slots available for each tour. And if you have multiple members that want to do a specific tour, you can just select. You will have to apply one specific membership, but after that, you can have the whole group together and it will just be in the same time.
Okay, well, we've answered everyone's questions and we're at the 15 minutes, so that was perfect timing. It was really great to have you all here. I hope that our information has been helpful for you, and I'm wishing everybody a very buon viaggio. If you have any other questions, please do come over to the community. I'm going to send you a link in that email I told you about, so you'll have that, and you can come over there and ask any questions, and I'll be over there to help you and other fellow travelers as well. So have a great trip.
Awesome. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, everyone, and buon viaggio.